for love once more.
Well, hello.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, welcome to another episode or issue or whatever you want to call it of Bookmark, our bi-weekly talk show where Julie and I talk about current events and things that are going on in the world.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is what we do on Bookmark. So we are live streaming on our Facebook pages. We have a Book of Hours community page, which we are live streaming on right now. We are also live streaming on Periscope, and which you can find on our Twitter pages, which is Book of Hours Julie and Book of Hours JP. We're live streaming on Rokfin as well. So thank you to our Rokfin members and subscribers for joining in today.
Yeah.
And we are live streaming on YouTube as well. So thank you to the YouTube community for joining us today as well.
Right. Well, I'm just checking our Rokfin page to make sure that we are on, and it looks like
we can't afford staff yet, so we have to do all these technical things while we're live. So we thank you for your patience while we do that.
It looks like we're on, but it wants me to join for some reason. Anyway,
and I'm checking Twitter right now.
So we are live. We are live on Rokfin. That's great. I can see myself looking at my phone while I'm talking to you and looking at my phone. So today we have a few things that we want to talk about. Let's start with this.
This is John, the pharmacist. How can I help you?
Hi, John. I just had a couple questions for you. Are you guys offering vaccines?
We do have vaccines in stock, yes.
Okay, and then how old do you have to be to get that? Are you giving them to kids as well?
The minimum age for vaccines in the state of Georgia for the Pfizer is 12.
12, so 12 and above.
Okay.
And then it was recommended to reach out and ask if you guys have any SM-102 in stock.
SM-102?
Yes.
I don't believe we do, but let me double check and see. I'll put you on just a brief hold, all right?
Thank you.
And I don't currently have the SM-102 in stock. I just checked my wholesale, and it's not something they carry.
So fun fact, SM-102 is a poisonous substance that's in the vaccine.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I don't know what's in any of these vaccines because there's no data available on these vaccines when they come to the pharmacy.
There's no data available on the vaccines when they come to the pharmacy?
No, ma'am. The prescription information that they give in the box of the vaccine says left intentionally blank.
I'm trying to make sense of that.
We have two since January.
I don't understand how there's 12-year-olds getting injections with no data on what you're injecting into them.
That's up to the parents of the 12-year-old who want to give the vaccine or want to get the vaccine to their child.
But what about the pharmacists administering them?
What about us?
Doesn't that make you feel guilty?
Are you trying to guilt me into giving vaccines? If someone wants a vaccine, I'll gladly give it. If they don't want it, that's on them.
You'll gladly give a vaccine to substance that you don't know is in the vaccine to a child?
That's what I've been told to do by corporate. Is there a reason you're asking me these questions?
Absolutely.
Do you want to sign up to get a vaccine, or are you just
no?
See if we have them?
You're a pharmacist, and I just wanted to ask you questions as you're supposed to be the professional in this area. No.
Okay, well, I feel kind of attacked on this one, but
you know how I feel attacked? I feel like,
and we don't know what's in these vaccines.
But you go to sleep at night.
Since January because it's my corporate mandate to do so.
So it's okay with you. You sleep at night knowing you injected a child with something you don't know what's in it.
Absolutely, sleep like a baby.
You sleep like a baby. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. How do you get that? Like, where do I get some of that where I just don't care about murdering children? Motherfucker hung up on me. That is a fucking disgrace.
I agree.
So, first of all, that was Riley Nichols. Riley is Rilee Nichols. And we can all take a lesson from Riley. That is exactly what we should be doing. We should be calling up our local pharmacists and we should be asking them what is the ingredients in the COVID shots.
Right.
And let them tell you. Just let them tell you.
Yeah.
And then also let them sort of hang themselves. When they tell you that there's no information available and that there's no inserts, kind of push back a little and say, how can you possibly distribute a medical intervention without knowing what is in the medical intervention that you are distributing and putting in
Right.
people's arms? So I would say, let's thank Riley for doing that, and let's take her example and let's follow suit.
Sorry.
What's going on? Okay, so what is why?
Yeah,
okay,
that's for later.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks.
So I would say definitely follow Riley Nichols on Facebook. That's Rilee Nichols, Nichols. Also, I believe also on Telegram.
Yeah.
So give her a follow. Give her a thumbs up for doing that.
Now, I think we found this on her page. I don't know if that was actually her, but I think that,
Oh, right.
but it's okay.
Yeah.
Go to
So
her page.
Riley Nichols is the one who posted the video of that woman.
Right. I don't know who
So-
that is actually, but
Right.
she.
Thank you for the correction.
Yeah. No, that's
Right.
okay. But she has some good content on her Facebook page and her Telegram page. So yeah,
Right.
go check that out.
So I'm still sharing out the live feed right now.
So that is just mind-boggling. When I first started hearing about how they were planning to give this to children, and they were calling it the rules around this there and the laws that were put into place. And we talked to Lynn Taylor last week on our Pull Quote show, and we were talking about this a little bit. And they refer to the children who are 12 and above as mature children. Okay, so now we've got this weird new language, these words and phrases that are coming into our vocabulary. And now mature children can get a vaccine. And in a lot of cases, they can actually go out and get the vaccine themselves without parental oversight, without parental approval, in fact. They don't even need a note. Now, what we were talking about with Lynn last week was, in some cases, you will find these corporate organizations, probably like the pharmacy this woman had just called, where they will require a note for the first vaccine, or at least, if not a note, a parental or caretaker, caregiver to go along with them, some sort of adult to go along with them, because I think basically it's a cover your ass kind of situation with the corporations. And but other than that, corporations are only doing that to take care of themselves. They're not looking out for you or your children. So keep that in mind.
Right. Very quickly, I just want to interrupt this
Mhm.
and wish my very best friend a happy birthday today.
Yeah.
Kevin is a very good friend of mine. I've known him for, oh gosh, I don't know, 30 years, I guess
Yeah.
it's been. And he does not live in the same state that I live in, but at the beginning of the pandemic, we invited him over because, most of our friends were, like many of you are experiencing right now. A year later, he was pretty disillusioned and pretty confused by what was happening. So we thought the best thing for us to do would be to have some time with our good friends. And so he came and spent a few days with us in Pittsburgh, and we did fun things. We went to the river, we ordered good food, we had a great conversation, and we got to reconnect a little bit even more.
Yeah, in fact, we did a bookmark with him.
Right, and we did a bookmark with him where
Right.
we sat by the
river.
Mm-hmm. Doing that. So that was really wonderful. So I want to wish him a happy birthday. He's been supportive of our work. He also follows other people that we follow on YouTube, other podcasters. You might know him through, if you see a comment from somebody by the name of Kev Truth. That's one of my best friends. That is probably my closest friend outside of my husband. So Kevin, I want to wish you a very happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Kevin.
And apparently there's a new baby. I guess he's a great uncle now again. So
that's great.
He's going to have a very wonderful birthday today with his family. So
nice. Well, I also wanted to point out that this is a sort of a surprise bookmark.
Mm-hmm.
We usually do these on Mondays, but yesterday being a holiday, we took the day off and decided to post it on Tuesday and do a live. Well, all our bookmarks from here on out are pretty much live.
Right.
And we are planning to do a special quarterly fundraiser solstice special bookmark coming up. We'll give you the date for that soon.
Right. So going back to the video
Right.
where that Riley posted of the wonderful young woman who spoke to the pharmacist and kind of put him on notice. The pharmacist is what we would call a good German.
Yeah.
Just following orders, just
Right.
doing what corporate said, not taking any personal responsibility for initiating these kinds of medical interventions on innocent children, pushing back against anybody who might question his morality. Where do you draw the line, sir? What is your, where's your moral compass in all of this? That's what we call a good German, people who just follow orders. Order
Right.
followers are good Germans. And we have come across so many good Germans over the last year of our lives, personally, as I'm sure you have as well. It's put us in a position where we feel really hesitant to even go out and engage with the public. We know that our position will fall on deaf ears. We know that the good Germans are unwilling and incapable of listening to reason, and that it would just be extra energy put into something and we'll get very little payoff for that. So, we try to surround ourselves with people who are supportive of us, who believe in a concept that we'll talk about towards the end of this broadcast, which is no gods, no masters, and no heroes. And that runs the spectrum of the situation that we're in. And we try to surround ourselves with people who are working individually on ways to help themselves. We don't have any room in our life for the good Germans.
No, we don't. And they are your family, friends, and neighbors. They're going along to get along, but I think that those are the people. The good Germans are the ones that go a step beyond just going along to get along.
Right.
We actually have a video clip of a friend of ours in San Francisco who is talking about the good Germans.
Right.
Fact.
And this too is somebody that we know personally. This isn't just a
random thing.
A random thing we pulled off the internet. This is someone that I have had dinner with. I've been to his house.
Yeah.
I'm good friends with this person. So please take a listen to what he has to say.
Okay, this is Mike Cacciopoli in San Francisco.
So San Francisco, the city I live in, unfortunately, has a near 80% vaccination rate now. I believe that's the highest for any major city. It might be the highest for any city, period. But certainly about 80% is the highest for any major city. And yet, as I walk around outdoors, I'd say nearly the same amount, 75 to 80% of the people are wearing masks outdoors. So basically, the same percentage of people vaccinated are wearing masks outdoors. Forget about the near 100%, well, the 100% indoors, because it's still a mandate, not a law, a mandate from Gavin Newsom for another 2 weeks. So see if you can follow this. 80% vaccinated, 80% wearing masks outside. And these are the people who believe in science. These are the science people. Everyone else is a denier. Everyone else is a denier. If you're not getting the vaccination, you're a denier. If you're not wearing your mask outside in the open air with nobody around you, you're a science denier. These people are the science experts. These are the liberals who follow science. No, they're sick in the fucking head, and I gotta deal with them every fucking day of my life.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You're right. So that was Mike Cacciopoli. Sorry about the close-up on there, Mike. We didn't mean to get such a close-up of your nostrils. It's
right.
the way
the video was.
The way the video.
Yeah, the video was a vertical, and I don't know why it loads in that way, but that's the way it is on the system.
So vertical videos tend to, on this particular application, tend to show up really close.
Yeah. Now the first one I showed, I had edited it, so it kept that format. But anyway, so yeah, there he is on Market Street in San Francisco. It's remarkable. It really is.
Yeah. So I don't have any proof that 80% of the citizens of San Francisco are vaccinated, but that's something that he said. He pays closer attention to the local news and the local statistics in my former hometown than I do. At this point, I think I think both JP and I were so discouraged and so disheartened and so just put off by the fascist policies that were being instituted against, the poor and the working class and the unhoused community, and people like our friends here. And we have, a few friends in San Francisco that feel the same way that our good friend Mike feels. We couldn't, we had to step away from the San Francisco news for a minute and kind of catch our breath, because it was astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing what's happening.
And we've heard, other reports about, signs everywhere. Like we've talked about signs in Pittsburgh here and there. They're on bus stop posts and, and things of that nature. But another friend of ours told us how they were just like repeated and like everywhere, like plastered all over windows. And it's like the same sign over and over again. I mean, he said it really felt like 1984 with all the propaganda that was out there. And we've seen how totalitarian the mayor has been in San Francisco. Last year, in 2020, we reported around Labor Day, when Burning Man would normally go on. People in San Francisco went back to their roots in terms of Burning Man and went out to Ocean Beach, which is where it all started. And the city government cracked down on them, and they did, everything they could to keep people from getting onto the beach.
Right.
And having fun and doing what they would normally do, especially that weekend tends to be warm in San Francisco. So it would have been a really nice time to be out on the beach with people, you know?
Right.
And so they've done everything in their power in that city to keep people from being with one another. But at the same time, we know a lot of people who don't have a problem with any of this. And we'll get into that in a little while. But, these people, they treated the lockdowns as if they were extended vacations,
Right.
a time to learn a new language, to learn how to play an instrument, to do these things that, they normally didn't have the time for. But at the same time, they were still bringing in a paycheck.
Right. They never stopped bringing in a paycheck. Can't even remember the last time we got a paycheck.
Great place to watch the Depression go by.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great place to watch the Depression go by when you're treating the onset of fascism and Nazism and tyranny and totalitarianism. It's a great place when you're in San Francisco and you have a paycheck. And not only that, but you're rewarded for producing the policies and producing the applications and technology, which is going to cause further enslavement and further immiseration of the global population, especially the global poor and the global working class.
Right, and especially through surveillance. Right.
So these are the good Germans we're talking about. So, JP and I, as you know, as we've mentioned multiple times over the last year, we are from San Francisco. That's where I was born, in the Bay Area. JP moved to San Francisco, early on in life. Graduated from San Francisco State University. I had, multiple positions in San Francisco where I was part of, the corporate sector. I worked for lawyers. I worked in marketing. I worked for Le Cordon Bleu San Francisco. We have some talent as far as, propaganda, and as far as, we worked on some political campaigns as well in San Francisco back in the day when we were engaging in the political realm, which we aren't anymore. So we have, creative backgrounds. I have a theater background. He has an art background. So we like to take the talents that we do have and apply them towards our Book of Hours platform. And we chose the name Book of Hours because we believe that the whole world belongs to all of us, not just the rich.
Right.
And that we look at the situation that we're experiencing right now as kind of a movie or a book, we're somewhat entertained by it. We're horrified by it. We are frustrated and saddened by it, and all the twists and turns that it takes, and the little eddies you go down as you discover more and more about yourself and about the world around you. So we have taken all of that talent that we have accumulated over the years through formal education or through practical education, in my case, and we have applied it towards this platform, and we've received some really amazing feedback. We've been able to um, cultivate strong relationships and connections and friendships with people as a result of this platform. We have we've people have been very supportive of us donating to our page, knowing full well that JP and I are currently unemployed. Um, and this is our only means of survival and our only means of income. So we are extremely thankful and appreciative of those people who have donated to us. And if you would like to donate, why don't you take a look at some of the sampling of our work, and you can become a patron or join Rokfin, which will help us further make new and better content.
All right. So if you pay attention to the ticker down there, that'll give you the addresses you can go to. You can go to paypal.me/bookofhours, or you can go to patreon.com/bookofhours. You can also go to rokfin.com/bookofhours, and that's ROKFIN. And with Rokfin, you can join for $9.99 really a month. And then you have access to premium content for all the content creators within the Rokfin network.
Right.
But you can join through us, and then we get that credit. So please, if you feel like you don't want to work with Patreon, because we've had some people express that towards us or to us, saying that they didn't really feel comfortable with Patreon because of some people
Whatever
that were taken
personal
down.
issues they have with Patreon.
Exactly. Right.
We personally don't have any issues with Patreon.
And we've talked about that.
We're creatives, we're artists, and Patreon.
But we're giving you the opportunity of choice. Yeah, we're giving you the freedom of choice to go to whatever platform you feel comfortable.
Help support us.
You can also give us tips on Rokfin as well. So if you're on Rokfin and you see us, and you see one of our videos, you can give us a tip as well, for as little as $2 a tip, a go. So yeah, drop some money.
So why don't
in the
we
tip
show
jar.
a clip of some of our work so people know what we're about?
All right. First, I'm going to turn off the ticker, and then I'll bring up a video. We have a new video out right now, and it's a new series. We have not ended the new model series, but we've started a new series in the interim, and it's called Before and After COVID. And this first video is called Shelley.
Shelley is a creative person. She sees herself that way. She's a tattoo artist who owns her own tattoo studio.
She's very successful at what she does. She spends a lot of time working with her clientele on what designs they want. She spends a lot of her own time sketching out the artwork and sketching out the designs and the pieces for her clients.
Right.
So what we see with Shelley is a very stark arc of personality.
Yeah,
We see
so
it.
before COVID in March of 2020, and then after.
And then after. Right.
You saw somebody who was going from, being a creative artist type of person who was, seemed professional and yet at the same time
A little standoffish and a little clueless about her community.
well, certainly, but also more into her work than into the community.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then to somebody who's like claiming to be about the community, but it's still about her work and herself.
Right. Right. But there's no. But this is an example of how COVID gives rise to fascism. How a person who may have been able to suppress this part of themselves before, it was kept under wraps, it was kept at bay, it was kept in check, that it was brought out of them. It was nurtured and brought out of them and made them into something actually quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was our little teaser.
That was our teaser for Before and After Shelley. So we started this new series called Before and After COVID because over the last year, of our lives. We have received multiple messages, multiple texts from friends and family and various people saying that their relationships with people have become unrecognizable over the last year. They have um, stuck to their own moral code and said, "I'm not interested in, uh, getting a medical intervention for something that isn't even approved by the FDA yet. I need more information before I just let somebody put a needle in my arm." And that has caused a great rift and a great divide in society. And nobody's really talking about that. Nobody is really giving that a critical eye. We have a lot of content creators and a lot of podcasters out there that are doing good work. They are researching everything from, what's going on as far as uh, our economy and what's going on with technology and the surveillance. We have people who are looking into the medical industry. So there's a lot of people that are looking into these, very important sort of underpinnings of what's going on in the fourth industrial revolution. But very few people are taking a critical look at specific examples of specific people that have had this arc where they've gone from being someone that you were friendly with, that you probably recognized a part of yourself in, maybe you shared the same philosophy about politics, to all of a sudden they're a completely different person. They're unrecognizable to you. And nobody's really, taking a creative analysis of that or a creative look at that. So we decided to tackle that. It's very personal, meaning that, as we continue to create these characters, and of course, Shelley is the first character, you will recognize patterns and stories, and it will be very personal to you, and you'll wonder, wow, did Book of Hours know what I was going through? And the only reason that it's going to be that personal to you is because we are all experiencing this separation pretty much the same way, and it's each circumstances surrounding the separation might be different, but at the end of the day we all have the same feelings. We have the same feelings of alienation, confusion, um, anger. We're wondering why we're being so deeply disrespected by people who once held us close or respected our values and liked us and were friendly with us or even related to us. Lots of pressure from parents who are forcing their children to do things that, their adult children to do things that, their adult children don't want to do, or vice versa. You might have a child or a daughter or a niece say, I think you should, mom, dad, or uncle so and so or aunt so and so, I think you guys should go, follow the protocol and get the COVID shot and put on a mask, and maybe you yourself, being of a different generation and valuing your sovereignty and making decisions for yourself, for your own health, maybe you're having a little splintering of that relationship as well. So we thought that it would be really important to identify and kind of target and really zoom in on these kinds of really challenging situations that people are finding themselves in. People are falling into despair because they're losing their connections. It's very despairing, and it's very, very frightening for them to be kind of cast aside and out in the margins of society, marginalized and all alone. And it's hard when you leave your home and everybody is wearing a mask and all of your friends and family members are wearing a mask, and you're the only one that that is saying, wait a minute, I need to stop and at least give this pause for thought. At least say, can I at least ask a question about the efficacy and the dangers of putting a medical intervention into my body that, as we learned from, this pharmacist, that this young lady challenge, there's nothing available. Like even the pharmacist can't tell you over the phone
Right.
what's in them.
Well,
You know?
and we've been seeing this arc taking place. People who were, more or less, normal or friends or whatever, but they seem to still have that kind of, they may have been like zealots about recycling or bike riding or whatever my case may be, and then turn into these absolute nutters. We've seen a couple videos recently. One from Vanessa Valentine. It came out like just recently, like last night.
She is
And-
a singer, songwriter, musician in Victoria.
in Australia, yeah. So she's really feeling the lockdown right now. But she was expressing how she felt like, the alienation. And she's like, I'm the one who's crazy. Everybody around here is wearing a mask. Why? They're not talking to one another. They're not talking to me. The faceless, expressionless people. It was really bringing a lot of despair to her life. Then we saw another instance where a guy was just, he was incredulous because he was outdoors in a parking lot, and some other guy was literally afraid of him because he was not wearing a mask. And this guy, apparently, I don't know how he found out, but he had received a vaccination, or he was fully vaccinated. He had a mask on and he was afraid of this other person. And this man who's, behind the camera, behind the phone, was like, okay, you got the vaccination to protect yourself from people like me, as the guy was saying. I'm trying to protect myself from people like you. And
But you're already
protected
because
and
you got the needle.
so why are you wearing a mask? And first of all, and second of all, why are you afraid to be near me? So you have the protection, you have the armor now. Why are you afraid?
Right.
So the fear is not going to stop with these with these shots, because I'm not going to call them a vaccination. The
COVID shots.
The COVID shots. The fear is still there with the people who get them, and they're going to continue wearing their masks, and we're going to continue seeing stores. Even after, what we're seeing is the governors are now lifting their mandates, not rules, not not laws, their mandates about mask wearing. But you're going to still see stores mandating this. And the only reason I can imagine that they would continue that practice is they're getting financial funding in some way to ask them or get them to continue doing this, right?
Right.
So
we wanted to create a series of we wanted to create a new series called Before and After COVID to address some of these issues that some people are having, where they are, their friends and family members are unrecognizable to them. And so we wanted to do a before and after. So before, who they were before
Right.
COVID, before March 13th of 2020, when the national emergency was declared in the United States, and then after.
And so this series is not only a new direction for us in content, but also in style. We're trying out some new things. We're trying out some things that we've been wanting to try out for a while, and doing more, paying more attention to the audio and to our voices and our banter, because we've been getting a lot of practice in through our table talks, which you'll see on Facebook. They're audio pieces,
Or
our website. Yeah, we have them in our blog as well. And we will take an hour while we're having breakfast,
and we'll just talk.
We'll just talk. And so those have given us the practice, but also the inspiration to try that out and to push that a little further into a more formalized way of presenting that kind of information. And we have at least 4 personas that we're presenting.
Right.
Shelley was the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what we're doing is, if you're familiar with Radio Lab or This American Life or Joe Frank, and what was the other one?
A guy named Ken Nordine. Who was popular in the 60s and 70s. He came out of the kind of the beat scene in Chicago in radio, and then he continued on. I first encountered him in television ads for Levi's, in which he did the voiceover,
Right.
and his famous sort of talking to himself in different personas and different voiceovers. And then in the 80s, he produced a series of radio shows called Word Jazz. And so you can look up Word Jazz or Ken Nardine and hear him. He's really interesting.
Back in the 90s in San Francisco, I was asked to be a feature poet for a week, and I ran the coffee shop circuit in the Lower Haight
Yeah.
and the Upper Haight district of San Francisco, and in Hayes Valley. These are all neighborhoods within San Francisco. And I would, get up in front of people and I would read my poetry. And I was pretty young. I was in my early to mid 20s at the time. And so I wanted to kind of get back to my true calling, which is voiceover, which is voice characterizations. You saw a little bit of it with Greta Sales, which we did a couple of years ago, where we took a series of tweets from Corey Morningstar, and then I created a character called
Tori Evening Star.
Tori Evening Star, and who is based on kind of a Gossip Girl, gossip column kind of characterization, where so Tori Evening Star has a different voice. It's a cartoon, so we're really trying to get into a more creative niche. We're not the broadcasters or the researchers out there. There's other people that do that are much better at it than we are, and thank goodness they're there, because we read them and we listen to them, and then what we do is we become inspired to have these creative video essays that people have come to enjoy. So please become a patron so that you can take a look at Shelley, or join Rokfin so you can see what we're all about.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is, we want to raise awareness too, that we are operating very much like any sort of public media. So, your community radio station, heaven forbid, your not National Public Radio station or PBS station, they're always doing, outreach to raise funds. A lot of nonprofits do the same. And we are no different. We are a pair of artists working collaboratively, creating media through video essays that we bring our own artistic sensibilities to, and people really like them, apparently. So we continue doing this work. We've also we've created this show last June. I think we're coming up on the anniversary soon.
Of Bookmark.
Yeah. And then we've just recently started doing an interview program called Pull Quote. I don't have a clip from Pull Quote, but I just wanted to mention that. But what we're looking for are some new patrons to join our Patreon page, or people to join Rokfin, or if you feel like it, if you want to, just contribute a small amount to our PayPal account. If you contribute $7 or more, we will send you Shelley, which you just saw, and we will also send you a newish video called Globotics.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, just very quickly, the kids love Globotics.
Yeah.
The children that have watched Globotics absolutely love it. For
Yeah.
whatever reason, kids love robots. And I know that it's bad, and I know that we're training the children to be the robots of the future and enslave them on a digital plantation. But kids love robots, and the children that have actually seen this video have responded really well to it.
We have our robot here.
Yeah,
so
we have and I actually learned something called Blockly, which is a coding.
It's a coding application.
A coding application that 3-year-olds are learning. So now I can code like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And I learned it so that I could have a better understanding about this feature toy that is being promoted called ClickBot. So the children need to learn a program called Blockly programming in order to animate ClickBot, or play with ClickBot and make it do all the cool robot things that robots do.
And Blockly was produced by Google.
It's a Google technology. So now I can code like a 3-year-old, because I wanted to make this video essay, and JP really did a lot of work for this particular one. So let's go ahead and show the preview for it.
Sure. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Step out into the heart of the sun and the trees. I love to make friends with my enemies. Can you feel this resonance with me? With me. I reach out for life. I reach out for love.
Things are not going back to normal.
Please be gentle. I'm just an economist.
Okay.
So you can see why the kids like that one. It's
Yeah.
full of, animated colors and good music, and but it does have a very serious message to it. And you can also go back and watch a video essay we did, early-ish on in the age of COVID, or in the fourth industrial revolution, called Lifelong Learning. What's happening is, if your child is enrolled in school, and I'll try to make this as simple as possible, is if your child is enrolled in school, then they are being trained as if they are part of a corporate agenda. That's why the kids still have to wear masks in school. That's why that's why their curriculum is very regimented. As a side note, I heard a story of a 13-year-old here in Pittsburgh who is always on her tablet, always doing her schoolwork. She has to make deadlines, meet projections, do projects with the class. She has to go to meetings. A 13-year-old who should be out enjoying life, who should be doing what 13-year-old girls do. What? Jump roping, swimming, enjoying life, maybe cheerleading practice. But this child works 10 hours a day on her tablet for school in order to keep up. Then she's in a one-parent situation where she only has her father, who earns an income to pay the rent. And apparently they don't even have enough food in the house, from what a friend who's connected to these people told me. This is here in Pittsburgh. And so now the child has had 2 ruptured ulcers and been rushed to the emergency room.
Right.
This is the kind of education that kids are being subjected to. This high pressure, this performance-based and behavioral-based programming, which is constantly, where you're constantly under a threat. It kind of like when you're working, if you don't perform at your job for the corporate, hierarchy that's in control of your paycheck, you could lose your job.
Yeah, we want you to stay after for a while to get this report out for us.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what your plans were this evening.
Right.
We
And this
expect
is
that
what
to
the
be done.
children, the kids are going through right now.
Yeah. So yeah. And
so-
so this video is sort of the, like Julie said, it's the companion to lifelong learning. It's the extension. So it talks about the education a little bit, but then it goes into the what happens after the learning, after the education, and you start getting into the workplace. This is based on a book called Globotics Upheaval by Richard Baldwin. And we start the video out talking about him and his. He's
the economist.
Yeah, he's the economist. He was in that video that we just watched where he says, please be gentle with me, I'm just an economist. well, he's a dick.
Yeah,
he's,
he's a dick.
and and he was speaking at the World Economic Forum in China in 2018, right before the book was published, and that's where we start the video, and we talk about that and how we're all going to be expected to work in a situation or in different situations that are very much different than what we are used to, and not making the same amount of money we used to, and being very much on the hook for a variety of different things. And then we have a segment talking about education for children through little toys and robots, and even like those play tables that the preschoolers are on, where they are spied on, and their behavior is monitored through these play tables. So it's very insidious, but it's got a good beat.
Right. So keeping in mind that when the certain, and it's also, it's a lot of this technology that the kids are being introduced to at school, where they are the toddlers that are on the play tables, where they press a button and move the shapes around, and they have this interactive experience. Not every child is going to have that experience. It's usually the children that are born into a certain class that have that opportunity, where they start training them early for a lifelong pathway where they will end up becoming the managers of the poor kids.
Right.
And that's not a meritocracy. This goes back to years ago, before we even started diagnosing this for what it is. This basic understanding that in the United States, you're not born into the same kind of opportunities that the wealthy class are born into. And we're
Right.
going to talk about that later as well, towards the end of this broadcast, about certain people who were born into that meritocracy that are really wanting to control those that weren't, like we weren't born into that meritocracy, and we never had those opportunities or that privilege handed to us. And
Right.
it's the same thing happening right now in the fourth industrial revolution. You've literally got children that are being taught these amazing things, which is going to put them on a pathway to success, and they will never know. They will never have to be on food stamps. They will never have to get a stipend to pay their rent. They will never have to, sign up for more and more debt services in order to try to reach that carrot that's dangling on the end of
Right.
the stick that they can never attain.
Right.
They won't be used for profit the way the poor kids are used right now in wraparound services and things like that.
And the school to prison pipeline.
Right. So, the kids that we talk about in our video essay, Globotics, are about those kids who were born into privilege and born into meritocracy, and will end up becoming the managerial class. And they won't know that, that this is not an equal distribution of opportunity. They won't recognize that ever.
Right. But going back to the kids that were on the play tables, and the behavioral surveillance that goes on, the kids that whose behavior isn't up to the par of,
because
like,
toddlers will be toddlers,
right? Exactly.
right?
But those who are identified as being problematic will be considered problematic for the future, and they will be guided into one channel, and the other kids will be guided into other channels. But the ones that are guided into the prison population are going to have basically a life of imprisonment and enslavement through the actual prison system. And what we've recently identified in one of our videos, 13 Amended, is that more or less all of us are going to be put into some sort of prison-like situation through our education or our work, because if you are considered a prisoner in the United States, you can also be a slave. And in our video that only patrons have seen, only those who have given us money on PayPal or have become patrons
or are part of the Rokfin, right,
have been able to see this video. And we have submitted, you want to say? We've submitted a complete cut. This was released in 3 parts, but we put it together in a complete cut and submitted it to a film festival, which we hope, you know,
Who knows?
who knows if it'll get put in or not, but if we'll get accepted or not, but we tried. So,
Right.
but if you'd like to see this, it's a 3-part video essay, and it is in entirety, it's about 50 minutes long, called 13 Amended, and we have a teaser right now.
Yep.
Okay.
This is the 4th Industrial Revolution.
The 13th Amendment, the one that says that slavery don't exist in America except in prisons, you know. And of course, we know that we're not slaves. We don't have any desire to be slaves.
It's all about humanity.
What is being built, a prison is being built in this country, and who ends up in that prison? Well, maybe we all do, but we'll certainly say future generations are going to end up in that prison.
It's all about humanity.
We are being taught that we are not human. We are simply batteries that make the machine go. With the advent of digital tracking through blockchain ledger technology and artificial intelligence, every person, everything a person does, every health issue, every transaction, every transgression can be tagged and traced on the ledger.
It's serious, guys.
Yeah.
So you may have recognized one of those voices. That's actually Brian Garish. He's a UK column broadcaster, and we captured a statement that he made in one of the many broadcasts that they do. They go live, I guess, every
Monday, Wednesday,
every
Friday.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or
Yeah.
he goes live every Monday and Wednesday
Right.
with his partner, Mike. Anyway, so we captured that because it really fit with what we were trying to convey with 13 Amended. But there's so much more to 13 Amended than just what you saw in that teaser. There's so much more to it, and you know, if for no other reason if you're not interested in globotics and you're not interested in this sort of before and after COVID analysis that we're starting with our video, Sherry, at least, you know, send us a donation so that we can send you 13 Amended in its entirety. It's a really important video. It's why we submitted it to a film festival. Of course, the subject matter is, you know, is probably not as well received by the film festival, since they are supportive of sustainable development models. I mean, everything about what we talk about is the complete opposite and is antithetical to their goals.
It's funny, they reached out to us and invited us to submit a video.
Right, so kind of strange that,
yeah,
that
well,
they would do that.
I think
but we were like, why not?
I think
You know?
last year I had reached out to them. That's on Facebook Messenger. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
one of our patrons is actually messengering us right now.
So I'll tell you that I reached out to them and said, I don't know how I discovered them. They're out of Stanford, and it's associated with the UN Film Festival or something like that. But there was an archive in Stanford, and I reached out to them for some reason. I forget what the context was, and I said, you know, here's some content. It has nothing to do with what you're tweeting or whatever the context was that I was reaching out to them over. But you know, just in case you want to know more about what's going on, here's our videos. And I think that that's how we got on their email on our email list, and why they invited us and how we found out about this. So we submitted to that. There are lots of film festivals out there that we have not been submitting to, just because it gets expensive. Each time you submit a film, there's a fee associated with it, and the cheapest one that I've seen was $15. And the video that I had that could have fit their criteria was not quite ready yet, so I didn't send that along. But so we don't do that because for a number of reasons. I think partly because of the funding that we need to really pursue that, but also our content doesn't necessarily fit with a lot of film festivals, and we feel like it might be wasting money and time by submitting to a lot of these film festivals, as well as the fact that sometimes we use videos from YouTube that although there's no copyright, there's no claim, they've been abandoned, they've been sitting out there for a while. There's nobody to get permission from to use them, and so we don't get the permission to use them, and which could be problematic. But we don't have a staff either to help us do these things. So, a lot of filmmakers who do that, they do get those permissions, but they also have staff to help reach out to those copyright owners. So, yeah.
So we, so we're, and I just let me just interject here for a minute. One of our patrons is texting us right now. The banning on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, is just off the charts. I mean, I don't even know what to say, because I know these people personally and I know what they post on their pages, and it's not controversial at all. And yet they're just getting these random, bans. They're getting these random takedowns for temporarily, whether it's for a week or 30 days or whatever. Something similar happened to JP, where out of nowhere, how many years have you had Facebook?
I'm an early adopter, and I think it was like 14 years or something.
Yeah, so 14, 15 years of being on Facebook, and all of a sudden they took his whole page down. They just took it down. All of it,
with no explanation.
With no explanation, and so we sent them an email and said, "What are you doing?"
And we
were early adopters.
I even made a video about it.
Yeah, we made a video about it too, called "Ban."
Yeah,
but you can find it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you can find it there.
Really cool graphics for that one. But so it's not personal, guys. Like, if you do get shadow banned or silenced or taken down off of your social media platforms, I can almost guarantee you it's not personal. It's just these dumb algorithms.
Well, and I think that also, Julie and I were having a conversation about this the other day together, and she was thinking that it might also have something to do with just like messing people up and keeping them, feeling, creating anxiety in their lives to do this.
Well, this goes into the psychological aspect of what we're dealing with right now. Many of us know that our only connections are online. Most of the people that I align with in my worldview right now are on Twitter, and a few are on Facebook as well. I'm finding there's more abuse happening on Facebook. I was kind of something happened to me recently that was really disgusting. And they kept JP out of the conversation, which I thought was really insidious. So,
they had blocked me and then started
attacking me like in, embarrassing ways, anyway,
sexual innuendo and things of that nature.
Hard to say, but it's hard to talk about because it was so shocking. And that's the whole point, is they want to shock you. They want to shock you into running away. So a lot of us have found people that we align with in our worldview, people that we really have been supportive of, and people who we've developed these really great friendships with. We found them through social media, because there isn't anyone in Pittsburgh that we align with.
Right.
There is not one. Well, there's one or maybe two people, but they're busy and they have lives, and we can't see them all the time. It's been months since we've been able to see these people. You know, one girl has 2 kids and she's stretched pretty thin with her job and he's trying to take care of her 2 kids. And another person, you know, he lives kind of far. I mean, he also lives in Pittsburgh, but it's difficult to get together with these people. So for your everyday support network, you go to social media, you go to your Facebook pages, you go to your Twitter pages, and you retweet and repost all the things that all these great people are saying so that you have a better sense of what's happening in the world and a better connection with your own worldview and also with the worldview of those you align with. And you develop these strong connections. Well, here comes, you know, the algorithms, here comes Facebook and Twitter to either take you down or alienate you from those people who you are connecting with. And I actually think that that's what it's really about. Because as I'm going through the people's pages who are getting banned, who reach out to us personally, they send us personal emails and say, I'm off, you know, for 7 days or 30 days. I'm looking at their content and it's not that controversial. It's really not.
Yeah.
They're doing all the right things. You know, they're keeping it within the, you know, the newspeak, so to speak, you know, and they're making sure that they cover up their, you know, if they're talking about something controversial, they'll spell it a different way to try to hide it from the algorithms. And that's not working because the goal is not to keep information, good information from coming out. The goal is to isolate you. The goal is to rip you away from your family, your new online family that you've connected with, and send you on a 30-day isolation. It's like prison. It's just like being in prison.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's the counterpunch to the isolation that everybody's been going through from the lockdowns. I believe that it's a follow-up to that, right? To alienate people even further,
right?
Along with the trolls that are out there. I think the trolls are either put in place or encouraged, because when Julie made a complaint about the very person that she was talking about a moment ago, Facebook came back and said, they look okay. They're all right.
Yeah, so somebody had been basically sexually abusing me, and I went and I asked Facebook to please
harassing you.
You know, to please at least look at this harassment. And they're like, no, it falls within our community guidelines. It's fine. You're not being harassed. See?
So
it's not about the truth. It's not about the fact that, oh, I guess I shared the truth so much and Facebook is now taking me down because they're trying to, you know, control the narrative. No, it's actually about, well, it's the same kind of behavior modification that they do in prison. When you have prisoners who are getting along and everyone's getting along and they're all sitting at the table and they're laughing and they're enjoying themselves and they're sharing information and they're sharing their life experiences and their past with each other, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the guards will say, okay, you're in 30-day isolation. Well, why? I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't try to knife anyone. I didn't try to start any fights. I didn't try to, you know, I didn't do anything wrong.
Right. Well, Kim here posted a comment on YouTube, said 30-day bans for arguing with trolls. So apparently,
don't argue with the trolls.
So the trolls are the thing, you know, that's why they're there. They're there. And a lot of times what they will do is they will throw words or phrases or, you know, keywords onto your thread. That you may not even know are there because they put them on after the people are talking, and those are the kinds of things that will attract the algorithms and the AI to get you banned. So they'll do those things just to get you thrown out for 30 days or whatever. So you have to pay attention to that kind of stuff. We've seen that happen a couple times with some of our threads and some of our content, and we take that stuff down when we see it.
Yeah. I think that, but I do want to really stress the point that this is behavioral modification training. This is to make people feel isolated. This is to, you know, make people not want to talk to each other, just like in prison. You know, everybody's getting along, everybody's fine. Then all of a sudden the guards will say, we'll pick somebody out and say, okay, you're in 30-day isolation. You're going to the shoe for 30 days. And everyone's like, why? This person didn't do anything. They followed all the rules. They did everything right. So then what that does is it makes the people who are not in the 30-day isolation tank, it makes them change their behavior. They start to modify their behavior as well. This is all about behavioral modification and deep control. And yes, as Kim said, the trolls are there. The trolls are there to initiate this behavioral modification to get you. So we, to change the way you interact with each other. So we on our social media pages and even on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, we put lots of videos of us doing gardening work. There's really nothing that's not bad behavior according to Facebook and Twitter, yet. So we put a lot of our gardening work that we do because we have an urban garden in the back. So we put that up too to try, not to beat the algorithms, but to beat the behavior, because what they want to see is you doing something that is a behavior that they'll approve of. And they approve, apparently, of planting flowers.
Well, now they do.
Planting beans.
We'll see how that goes.
We'll see
next
how
year.
how that
plays
goes.
out.
Maybe gardening, doing an urban garden will be considered a violation of community standards someday, but we'll see.
The last thing I think we wanted to focus on today was also had to do with social media.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll let you take the lead on that because you had a lot to say about it this morning when we were talking about.
Yeah. And I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking.
That's okay. I've been
that's part of my.
I've been chatting with people today. Usually you're the one chatting with people and I'm talking, so that's fine.
Yeah.
We can. Yeah, it's okay.
Well, going along the lines with this new series that we've adopted, this new series that we're creating called the Before and After COVID, a lot of us have seen in very obvious ways the changes in personality with our friends and families and neighbors. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen physical changes. I've seen personality changes with people as they've adopted the mask and as they've adopted the ritual that comes with the wearing of the face coverings. It's like they've gone into a new religion. And we talked about this with our good friend in Canada, David Whitehead. So we have a portion of that conversation that we've uploaded to our YouTube channel.
You
so
can go see that there.
You can watch a portion of that conversation. And then if you want to see the whole thing, you can become a patron or join Rokfin, and it will be there for you to see.
And David is also on the Rokfin network. So if you join Rokfin, you can see his premium content as well.
Right, exactly. So if you become a premium member with us, you will be able to see his premium content as well. That's how Rokfin works. That's why we like it. But this, we all knew at the onset of the national emergency, which was March 13th, 2020, that was the defining moment that things would change, that your relationships with others would change, your relationships with your family would change. And that was easy. It was easy to say to yourself, well, my worldview is that I don't want to muzzle myself and I don't want to fall prey to these ritualistic practices, which are taking over every facet of your life. I mean, it's absurd, right? The idea that you would have to go through a ritual just to buy milk for your kids or buy cereal for your kids. Well, it's crazy, right?
And the other thing was, the slap in the face of logic. You'd come across situations like, for instance, with us, we went to and a lot of people had been experiencing this, go to their local co-op, and the co-op suddenly changes the way they approach health.
Right.
This whole time they'd been extolling the values of naturopathy and vitamin supplements and all these things, and they would have never suggested you wear a mask ever, and suddenly they turn it around and they want you to suffocate yourself. Right, and they're a completely different type of store. And I called our store out on it on Twitter, and they said, well, we never, ever, suggested that we were a medical setter,
we're
right?
not saying that you ever
we
said
never
you
did.
were,
But we pointed out that they were just, being really strange about the fact that they once were, pushing, naturopathy, and now they were going full on allopathy.
Right.
Right.
So, a lot of these changes that were taking place in our lives were easy to recognize. And we were all sort of coming together and saying, wow, this is, all of these personality changes and these rule changes, we can all identify with them. We can get it. Like, this was the obvious fracturing and bifurcation and disintegration of society. That was the obvious part of it. You know, I would have my belief system, which is that I don't want to muzzle myself and I don't want to put an experimental protocol in my body. And you would have your belief system, which is that you're okay with it. And never the two shall meet.
Right.
And that was easy.
Right.
That
And
was easy for us to recognize.
We're still dealing with that right now.
Oh, sure. We'll always be dealing with it.
Exactly.
You know, this is the way it is going to be for the rest of your life. So that was easy. That was really a really simple go-to place. Like, okay, well, this is it. It's March 13th, 2020. We're going to see a fracturing of society. And that's the way it is. But now is coming a new type of fracturing, we're turning into a new level of fracturing of society. We have seen it firsthand. We've been sort of the victims of it, if you will, firsthand. Within this society, within this framework of 4IR, you've got experts, you've got really great people who are traveling the distance to tell the world about what's happening. They are, you know, calling out human capital markets. They are calling out the medical industry. They are calling out the corruption in the economy. They are the experts at what they share. And they have the same worldview as you. They don't believe that wearing a mask is good. Some of them don't. They don't believe in medical interventions. And they don't believe that locking down a society and, you know, putting children into these, you know, horrible digital service platforms that they're working on, you know, through school. They don't believe that that's good. They have the same value system and the same worldview that you have, which you've discovered in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. This is a discovery that you've made about yourself. They are very, you know, supportive of the local, pushing back locally, like going to your local municipality, going to the municipality meetings and pushing back against a lot of these really terrible laws, which aren't actually laws, but rules that are that your local community is adopting so quickly. And
we see these personalities all over social media.
They're all over social media.
Various platforms that are out there.
Incredibly popular. They have, you know, and they hold themselves up as the experts in their knowledge and in their field and what they're saying. But what's happening is if you're a couple of creative anarchists like me and JP who stick by our fundamental value system, which is no gods, no masters, and no heroes, we may not lift these people up in the same way that everyone else does. And so those people who are typically narcissistic and have these huge egos, which have carried them through the last year, plus I've noticed they usually come from a meritocracy that I wasn't born into. They have expense accounts, which they can travel the world and, you know, go on these talks, and, you know, they have means at their disposal. You know, they're not suffering, you know, from the very pernicious things that they are describing.
Very much like the people we talked about who, you know, are in San Francisco that we know, who've been able to ride this out in plenty of, you know, making a paycheck and learning a new language while doing it.
Right.
You know, so they share a similar ability to ride this out, but at the same time they share your worldview.
They share your worldview, not the worldview of our former friends in San Francisco, who are actually putting the fascism into place through surveillance and all that.
But what we're going to start seeing now already are this further fractioning.
Right.
Between the not only the people that you don't agree with.
That's easy.
That's easy. We're going to start seeing the fracturing between the people you do agree with, and especially between groups of people who will lift up specific individuals in order to, you know, follow them, I guess, and those who do not or will not, right? And so we've been finding through our own interactions because we talk to a lot of these people and work with them, that we have been either splitting with them directly through a variety of means and reasons, or we are getting attacked by their minions.
Right. So, you know, that's, and, you know, we all go through that where we all get attacked by trolls and by the flying monkeys and the minions of the people that, you know, that align with certain worldviews.
Right. Well,
you
Brandy
know.
Ann just said, yes, like the medical freedom community. So yeah, like you said, you pointed that out. That's one of those communities, the truth community, the medical freedom community. All these different groups are starting to rise up within our worldview, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, so the thing that's really important to recognize is that each and every one of these wonderful communities has the same goal. Let's fight the fascism, let's fight the bad guys, let's come together and, you know, and in solidarity, let's call out all of this terrible stuff, whether it's, you know, what's going on in the medical community or what's going on with technology or what's going on with the economy, all of it, right? But what these leaders, these self-appointed leaders in their field or in their expertise, what they're doing is they're forgetting that each individual who has the same worldview is an individual, and those people who say, well, you know, thank you for this information, but I don't want to use it in my next video essay, are being kicked in the head. They're being abused. The leadership or the so-called experts in these, you know, in these fields, if you don't fall down at your feet and worship the ground they walk on, and you say, well, the information that you've provided to me is actually valuable in and of itself, but it's not valuable for me personally. Me personally, I have a personal, you know, thing that I'm doing in order to counteract what's happening in the world, and thank you for that, but I'm going to go ahead and go with another, you know, different information for say my video essay. The person, the self-appointed leader in this, you know, information that they're providing, you know, gets very offended by that, and then her minions get offended by that as well. So what we want to do with the before and after COVID is we want to talk more about this complicated analysis of, you know, the psychology that's going on with these self-appointed experts who are bringing valuable information to the community. There is no doubt about that. But we don't fall down at, you know, on our knees and worship at the feet of these experts. We sit at the table with them on an equal level.
Right.
Many of them come from a meritocracy and have an education that I was never afforded. And they're absolutely appalled that someone from the working class and from the lower classes and the poor class would actually have the nerve to be on equal footing as them.
Yeah.
And I personally was recently attacked by one of these heiresses who is profoundly intelligent when it comes to breaking down the economy. So I just wanted to say that this is the new level of splitting apart that we're seeing. And it's much more complicated because everybody just wants to go into this and go, okay, I get it. I'm fully awake. I fully understand what's going on. This is great. I'm against the vaccines. I'm against 4IR. I'm against Klaus Schwab. I'm against, you know, this and it. The end.
Yeah. Oh, and
no, it's much more complicated.
And within that context, it's hard enough to work with the people who have the same worldview that have different political tendencies. It's hard enough to do that. I mean, a friend of ours, the South Essex Heckler,
right,
posted something on Twitter, and it was from a conservative news source, and he's like, "Yeah, I know it's from this. Get over it. You know, there's some good information in here." Right. It's hard enough to do that, but now what we're going to be seeing, and what we're seeing now, is infighting within these communities, especially. And you know, this is classic leftist shit.
Yep.
The left always fight amongst each other and tear each other down, and
Well-
and this is an extension of that, and it's sort of on steroids.
It is. It's really on steroids. This
Yeah.
narcissistic behavior, which typically comes from, leftist or liberal, especially those who were born into privilege, who were born into money, who have never really suffered through the onset of the national emergency the way we have. We can't get jobs, we can't get support, we're always under, stress. We recently had to hit the floor and crawl to safety to avoid stray bullets, which right across the street from us there was a shooting. These people who are the self-appointed experts of 4IR and the economy and the medical community, they don't live like that. They are of a different class.
Right. They don't have a halfway house, just outside their back
They're
door.
not talking to the drug addicts every day,
Right.
and the people who are seriously suffering as a result of this national emergency that we're living in.
Right.
And they are not checking their privilege. In fact, if you don't follow them and you don't lift them up as the experts and you don't worship at their feet, then they will use that as an excuse to attack you. And that's what's happened to us. So this is a further splitting, and it's a further calling out of how dare you think on your own? How dare you, be independent? Don't you realize that you're poor? Don't you realize that you're not born into the same class and meritocracy that I, the expert on 4IR, was? And you should just sit at my feet and, worship the ground I walk on. And we're like, no, that's, I've never done that. I'm not going to start now.
It's funny because
even in the middle of fascism,
right? We started
especially
experiencing some of this in the last summer, after releasing some content and being told that we didn't do it right, that we weren't, that we were plagiarizing and the person was mad because we didn't use any of her work. So I don't know how that one works.
So this is the same kind of narrative that's coming up with we're creatives and we're doing our own thing. We're literally just doing our own thing. We're not trying to take away from anyone else's work. We're doing our own thing, and out of nowhere we get attacked.
Right.
Out of nowhere.
Right. And so what we're saying is that this has been happening to us. This will, and from the comments I'm seeing, it looks like it's been happening to people as well, and it's going to continue and get worse.
Right. So I would also like to remind you that historically, when it's in a failed state, which is what we're in right now, it's a failed state, and as much as I am dubious of even mentioning his name, Chris Hedges does go into great detail about what a failed state looks like. Mm-hmm. And so we're in a failed state. Corporations have taken over our government, which is fascism. And within that failed state, it leaves a vacuum, and it leaves a great need to connect with the people. It leaves a great desperation and vulnerability in a population that's looking for good-hearted leaders. They're looking for people who are saying things like, let's get back to the earth, and let's be a community, and let's put aside our differences and save the world, and all this, kind of sentimental language. So within that failed state, you get these personality types that rise up, and these personality types typically, always, usually, historically, lead that failed state into some very dark places. Mm-hmm. And so we're over here not worshiping anybody, sitting equally at the table with everyone.
At least trying to.
There are lots of poor people on wraparound services around here, and lots of drug addicts. We do not feel that they are any better than we are, and we also don't think
vice versa.
Right. We do not feel that we're any better than them. Sorry. And we also don't feel that the people who were born into that meritocracy that haven't really suffered through the age of COVID, that they're any better than us or the drug addicts. Mm-hmm. Everybody is equal, and everybody has something to bring to the table. That's why we like to open up our platform to all sorts of voices.
Yeah, well,
we're not classist.
To illustrate that, a couple things Brandy Ann said. I was told that I didn't align perfectly, and I didn't have too many radical beliefs, but freedom, lol. You know, so yeah, you'll find that, you know, it's like, well, you know, I align with you on 3 things, but on that 4th thing, oh, we can't get together. I'm sorry, we can't do that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why I never fit in. I'm at the weird people table. Yes, well, we know that one. We know that table, the kids table.
Yeah.
Um,
So Michelle, who is a good, you know, friend and a patron, did say that Hedges is questionable because he is indoctrinated.
no,
Yes,
we believe that too.
you know, I've tweeted him, you know, multiple times saying, when are you going to call out the fascism that you yourself have described over the years?
Right.
When are you going to call out the fact that, you know, COVID-19 is being used as a tool of oppression? I've absolutely called him out on that, Michelle. So
And
I
it's
thank
crickets.
you for bringing that
Yeah.
up. Of course, it's crickets. You know,
Yeah.
Pulitzer Prize winner versus, you know, a chick who makes music videos, basically describing
you
4IR.
blogger, you
Yeah, I
blogger,
know.
you. Yeah.
So, but we wanted to bring that to your attention, that it's easy to say, oh, well, yes, society will be bifurcated and split in 2. It'll be the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. Okay, that's easy. That's really easy. But what's more complicated is that here are people who align with your worldview, and they're saying all the right things. And yet, if you start to show your individual nature to them, they might block you, or they might attack you, or they might even, you know, just make up something about you to make themselves look
To lift themselves up, yeah.
you know, more vulnerable or more likable, or to lift themselves up and get the compassion from their followers. And that's also happened to us. People have out and out lied about us. Almost to our faces.
Right.
I mean, if you consider social media, you know, and we're thinking, I've never once had any interaction with this person. I have never tweeted at this person. I have never even had any interaction at all. And yet they're calling me out personally, saying all sorts of nasty things about me, which aren't true. So, you know, and this person who's doing this to me, I align with her on most things, you know? So it's very interesting, and it's very tragic. And I think that what we're going to see more and more of that. And that's the goal. The goal is to just splinter us all up into these tiny little camps that, you know, that makes it easier to control everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, Brandy Ann, get your black flag out and don't worry about it.
right.
Right. But you know, it's and I think that you know, we've been seeing over the past year, we've been seeing a lot of pages, as it were, taken out of, you know, sort of the leftist handbook. You know, if it's not, you know, this way of like talking about where am I going with this? Basically, you know, I don't know. Well, we've been hearing a lot of people saying, "Oh, what's a communist takeover?" And it's all these things, and the sort of BLM thing.
It's a little bit of everything,
right?
People.
the BLM thing, you know. So like everybody's like looking at sort of the leftist language and actions that have been taking place. You know, we've been seeing things like you know, direct action and mutual aid coming from the anarchist side, and then BLM saying we're trained Marxists, and you know, or whatever, right? But I think that's all being used to bring us to this place of splintering, because the left has always been, like I said, always been splintered. And you know, the Trotskyists hate the Maoists, and the Maoists hate the anarchists, and the anarchists hate the Stalinists, and
it's
you know, and it's all that, right? So and I think that this is going to be you know, an extension of that some more, and you know, so get your boots on,
right? You know, we also noticed that there's a lot of mean girl stuff going on. You know, I'll give a couple of different instances that, you know, and maybe you yourself have experienced something similar. I recently, I don't have a car. I take a public bus, and I recently played a portion of a video that talked, and I played it out loud on my phone, and the person talking in the video was a newscaster, and the newscaster was saying that masks actually don't do anything, that they don't, you know, the newscaster herself was saying this, and she had that kind of like newsy voice, you know, studies show that, blah, 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 so she was talking about, the truth about the masks, which is that they don't do anything. They don't, protect you from a virus. In fact, they could make you more sick. And she was doing this, and a lot of people that were sitting on the bus that have to muzzle themselves and be treated like slaves because we're poor, they were nodding. They were saying, yeah, they were listening, and they were nodding, but they're afraid of the bus driver. Sometimes the bus drivers we get are really militant and really mean. So I posted this and I said, I am taking my inspiration from a woman that I'm connected to on social media in London who does the same thing. She plays these wonderful speeches about, what's really going on in the age of COVID and fourth industrial revolution. And she's kind of waking people up on the bus. So I took my inspiration from her and kind of did the same thing. And I helped this poor community, mostly Black, mostly poor, that are forced to take the bus every day. I played this for them, and they really liked it, and they were nodding. And so I gave her, I gave her some kind of recognition for inspiring me to do that. And she came back with, I would never do that. And she completely twisted it around.
Because of the news source.
And she attacked me. But it's not just because of the news source. It's because somebody that she knows on social media that knows us doesn't like me. This person has specifically said, I don't like your blonde hair, and I don't like the way you dress, and I don't like, that you curl your hair, whatever. That person specifically said that to us and is really good friends with this woman in London who I took inspiration from. So then you get into something that is so immature. And so this is high school behavior that I didn't even put up with in high school when it was happening when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. I didn't put up with it then, and I'm certainly not going to put up with it now. So that's what's really going on is this kind of mean girl kind of stuff.
And social media,
it gives rise to that.
It encourages it.
It encourages it. It's fertile soil for it. This kind of sniping and swiping and telling lies and passing judgments on people that you don't even know. You're not in my shoes. You don't know what's going on. So, and then the second example is that a girl that we know that lives in Pennsylvania was living for days and days with the smell of a dead body in her apartment building. And I said to JP, I said, this is insane. Are we like recreating some kind of Dickensian, and you're seeing the blog post that I wrote about it. You can go to our blog post and read it. Are we seeing a resurgence of Dickensian times where people are forced to live with, dead bodies or the smell of dead bodies in their homes? So I reached out to her personally. We both did, JP and I, and said, look, I know Philadelphia is 6 hours from Pittsburgh, but nobody should have to live with the smell of dead bodies in their own apartment building. If you can somehow travel the 6 hours with your little dog, you and your little dog can stay here for as long as it takes until the landlord gets their act together and does the right thing and cleans out the stench and the smell of dead bodies. And at first she was like, thanks, I'll take care of it. But then she blocked us. And she blocked us because the person that she worships, we don't worship that person. And that's why she blocked us. And that too is very immature behavior. Right after we had offered to open up our home to her. So this is the kind of behavior that we're seeing, this kind of splintering. Now, she and I have the same worldview. We're very critical of the different policies and the fascist overreach and the medical interventions. We have the same worldview, but because I don't worship who she worships, she blocked me. So even after I had, extended my home to her and said, come stay with us so you don't have to live with the smell of dead bodies. So this kind of behavior is really growing. And I'm not sure where it's coming from, because it really is reminding me of that immature, gossipy, not thinking about what exactly it is that you're that your belief system is. Do you believe in the hero, or do you believe in yourself? Or are you just on the quest for the quest's sake without actually, realizing that the quest is probably something that will never be you'll never fulfilled. It'll be an unfulfilled quest for the rest of your life, and so your fulfillment needs to come from within, to be independent, to be autonomous, to have no heroes, to worship at no one's feet, and live your life the best way you can. I'm sad because I liked this young girl. She and I had a lot in common, and she's very sweet. And I'm sad that she blocked me because I don't want to have a hero. But I'm not going to change my personality and change the way that I interact with the world, which is that we're all on an equal footing. We're all on an equal table. Imagine us all sitting at a table with all of our faults. Some of us have terrible disabilities. Some of us are have learning disabilities, but we each are equal. We come to the table on equal footing, whether we are an heiress or whether we are an expert with an expense account traveling all over the world, telling the world about what's happening in the age of 4IR and in the medical community. We're all on equal footing, and we should all be able to sit at the table and be respectful of the gifts that we bring. I reached across the table and I took what I needed from an individual who has a sense of hero worship about her, and I said, oh, this is actually very beneficial for
something we're working on.
Something that we're working on. Thank you for that. And I gave her the nod and I gave her the credit with her approval, but I don't worship her. So you would think that would be a reasonable, that's reasonable, right? That's a reasonable way to be as an adult.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So like I said, get your boots on.
Yeah.
Or buckle up. It's going to be bumpy ride, or whatever cliche you want to use.
Right. It's different now.
It is different. Things are different. And so we haven't been on for a while with Bookmark, so we went over a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, we did. We went about 15 minutes over.
Just want to remind you, we're going to do a special quarterly fundraiser Bookmark coming up around the time of the solstice. So it's going to be the solstice. We're going to do a rune reading, and we're going to for the world and for us, for those of us
rune reading for the world
for the season, because it is the solstice of the summer, and we're going to have I don't know, snacks and drinks.
Well, so we pull runes for our for ourselves. We do this, every couple of weeks. JP has a lot of dreams, and so we think that the runes help interpret the dreams. I've stopped dreaming, which is really kind of interesting. But his dreams have increased, which is really, I don't know if that sounds a little woo to you, but these are the kinds of things that we like to pay attention to.
Right. So the runes are an oracle, and they're based on the runic alphabets from the Vikings, or the Nordic people. And so what we do is we use this as a means of like kind of figuring out, where we are right now, what things we should be looking at, and how to engage in the world. So we'll be doing that as part of our fundraiser evening, and
in a few days we have a guest that we will be hosting.
Correct. Oh, right, I forgot. Yeah. So next week.
Surprise.
Okay, it's going to be a surprise next week on Pull Quote.
I'm excited about this one.
We're very excited. Another person out there that a lot of you know.
A lot of you love.
Yeah, so we'll be bringing her on. We'll put out an announcement and a teaser, or a little piece on that. So we're looking forward to that. That will be next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So that, go from there. All right.
And so I want to thank everybody who did, Michelle and Brandy and Kim and other people
other folks
who have commented and joined us today. It was a little bit of a different one, especially towards the end there. But if you would like to, go to our blog page, book-of-hours.com, and then choose the blog. And, you know, you can read a little bit more about these, you know, these challenging, different analysis of what's happening.
Right.
Some things are just not so obvious. Some things are more nuanced, and it's those nuances that get in that you go, wait, I don't understand what's going on. And that can be very challenging, and that can actually undermine everything if those little nuances in life where you're like, why did this happen? I thought this person liked me.
Right.
I thought we were on the same page, and all of a sudden now I'm questioning everything.
Right. Yeah.
Again, so here you are again, and you're wondering why that might be happening.
So further fissions in society and,
Yeah.
and within your community
Right.
as well.
Which can cause anxiety in yourself. Michelle just mentioned that she's been having some vivid dreams lately, and you know, oftentimes that comes with, you know, an unresolved anxiety. And so, you know, we don't pretend to be the experts on any of this. We're not holding ourselves up as any kind of experts in any of this. We're just trying to, you know, we're figuring it out ourselves as we go along. And we have some talents in theater and art and, you know, design and, you know, like I said, I was a feature poet back in the 90s. So I have a thing with words and voice.
We try to find ways to channel this into a media that allows you to get some ideas as well. We're certainly not trying to tell anybody how to live or what to do.
I don't know your circumstances.
but we do our best to give voice to and shine a spotlight on what's going on right now in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap this up. Any last words?
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you for your comments, and you too, Michelle and Kim. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So we're going to head out now.
Okay.
And we will catch you guys soon.
Okay. Great. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Book of Hours are artists here to empower and embolden your response to the constant negative sound bites that attack your news and social media feeds. In order to continue making the video essays and art you've come to enjoy, we need your support. Make a one-time donation or become a patron. Thank you.